Here's a bold statement. I think Wonder Woman as a film is better than you think it is. That applies even if it's your favorite movie ever made. I think I still might make you like it even more. However, if it's your least favorite movie of all time, hopefully you will gain a newfound respect for something I like to call the fetchness. Son of a damn it crap spelunky, what? Didn't we have a meeting where I said, I'm just gonna quote this off my phone here, even as a temporary name, I am not okay with calling the secret sauce about Wonder Woman the fetchness. And quote, what is happening to my show? Used to be so fetch. Wonder Woman, a movie all about the fetchness, is a 2017 film directed by Patty Jenkins, written by Alan Heinberg, with a story created by Zack Snyder, someone we're going to be talking about a whole lot in this piece, Alan Heinberg and Jason Fuchs. Heinberg is known for his work on Grey's Anatomy, The O.C., Sex and the City, and Party of Five, whereas Fuchs wrote Ice Age, Continental Drift, and is scripting the upcoming Minecraft the movie. Zack Snyder is known most recently for this and this.
Is this the real life?
Two films that tie directly into this, and something we're going to come back to. And this isn't the easiest film to talk about, but I'm going to avoid colloquial burps like, it wasn't a perfect movie, because no movie is perfect. If movies were perfect, we couldn't relate to them. I mean...
Paging Dr. Poison. Dr. Poison to the front, please. Paging Dr. Poison, we have a spill. Dr. Poison.
Wonder Woman is like 500 different things, all at once. It's a wonderful fish out of water story, a gorgeous World War I film, a whimsical dissection of mythology as it pertains to, like, reality, while being the truest vision of a DC character that actually represents the superhero worshipped by hundreds of millions of people as she actually is. Not randomly a horrible murderer, like the rest of them. Diana is compassionate and kind, and wants to believe that people are good and ultimately worth saving. Like, she's not exactly at home in the tapestry she currently resides in, which is something I want to lean on really close in this piece. The cinematic world surrounding Diana is chaos, unmistakable chaos. The architect of this current cinematic clusterverse is very clearly this dude, and frankly, Batman v Supes was why so serious, and then Justice League was God only knows, because explain in one word what the tone of Justice League was. I will wait here. And all I'm actually saying is, if you're Patty Jenkins, who I hopefully don't need to explain why the pressure of her finding success here was monumental, was, to use a football metaphor, trying to kick a field goal while the goalpost is teleported. What at first might appear like odd design choices, i.e. the bad guys in this film, who I admit are sort of strange, but when you realize that those design choices were made to fit into Zack Snyder's cinematic universe in a way where they work at any tone, because literally two disparate movies that sandwich this. Like, pick a tone! So pretend that you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back, and if you lose this fight, you lose this for what inescapably represents a lot more than just you. And the ground is moving. There's a lot of reasons for this. This is kind of an idea we've only invented since Marvel. This idea of the pressure of making a superhero movie is actually far worse than it used to be. You're not just making a good Wonder Woman movie anymore. This isn't 1990, y'all. You're making a vertically integrated superhero film that must share compatibility with what has come before it and what which comes after it, because it's 2017. And God help us, the stupid, idiotic social network hell that we have imprisoned ourselves with is the same hell mistake that allows marketers to gain the confidence to pull off things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and more Star Wars. This film is a half-court shot with your eyes closed. Let's take a moment for the shared universe guillotine that fell Edgar Wright, Phil Lord, and Christopher Miller, and Colin Trevorrow. And that's 100% not a comment on any of those artists. I've said amazingly nice things about literally all of them, but it is a comment on the system that couldn't shift to accommodate them in the ways that they as artists needed. The tightrope is skinnier than it appears, so when someone succeeds, let alone breaks the mold that contained it, yeah, you pour Patty Jenkins another beer because hot damn, my friend, you accomplished so many unseen goals beyond the ones that people already give you much due credit for. This success cannot be undersold. Actually, here's how hard not to undersell it. $821 million worldwide. Justice League is at $572. Justice League with 6 times the superheroes, including our titular hero, undersold it. Okay. Put simply, it is... Holy God, everybody involved in this movie swung for the parking lot.
How can we add modernity to this classic genre? The first thing was meeting with each of them and talking about, okay, here is the story that we are hunkering in on telling.
On this, the inspiration, I've got to say, of the design of all of the armor and all of the world of Themyscira, I've tried to grow it out of the Wonder Woman costume used in Batman vs. Superman. So taking all the style lines, taking all the information in that one costume inspired all of the others. So whether they're the Queen or whether they're a soldier, there's a hint of the Wonder Woman costume in all of them.
Like, everybody.
Very early on, Patty and I talked about a portrait painter of the time of World War I, John Singer Sargent, and he actually had what we would consider a very modern approach to using light in his portraits, and a lot of that was very soft frontal three-quarter light that quickly fell into blackness beyond the character. And that painting style sort of dictated a lot of how I approached lighting the faces.
Like, everybody.
So we had literally hundreds of designs for this before we got it down. But this was the chosen god killer.
The serpent was chosen for dinosaur. The animal was chosen just because of its look, its fierce. It just gives off that vibe that they want her to be that way, to strong, fierce.
Got something in the region of 38 locations across 2 countries, across the UK and Italy.
That really helped me anchor how we would introduce different imagery into the shields or the swords. And we basically came up with a design that would go through each.
The craftsmanship on everything. You get the palpable and believable feeling that everyone working on this believed they were working on something important, and were. They had the design Themyscira. Wait, what is it? Themyscira? Got it. Nailed it. First try. One take. You know, the place where the gods made their trial run civilization, also a World War I movie of grandeur and scope. Oh, and it's a superhero movie where lassos make people tell the truth. They even made the lasso thing great.
What the hell is this thing?
Huh, the Cloverfield episode had Superman in it, and then I did a Batman episode, now a Wonder Woman episode. That's like planning or something. Also, I just have a lot of things to say about DC superheroes, and it is a telling statement that I believe one of their main 3 houses is actually in order. I'm continually baffled by the scope of this thing. Here's an interesting thought. Wonder Woman is a World War I movie for, I believe, 2 reasons. 1, it puts Wonder Woman far enough away from the Justice Broverse that you can sort of avoid the flying bug monster pitfalls. I mean, Diana is actually fighting humans, which does make a difference if you came for the punch fights, or to watch Diana knee this dude out a window. 2, from an outside perspective, World War I was the moment the world really started going down the path it is currently on. Think about it, what if you're an alien species that chooses to visit when some large percentage of the world is embroiled in a 32-country conflict that claimed the lives of some 17 million people, which is really fertile soil to plant Diana's roots in. Because here's a fun bit of trivia, what other World War I movies can you name? I'll knock out a few. There was Lawrence of Arabia, A Very Long Engagement, which I love, War Horse. James Franco was in that movie you definitely forgot about. Flyboys. Yeah. It can be slimmer pickings with that particular war, which I think makes the decision interesting. It's a period piece wrapped in a period piece. And I haven't even talked about the movie yet, I've just talked about the hoopla surrounding it. So let's get to... This movie is about a billion things that all add up into one really beautiful new superhero thing. And if you need to use the restroom, go now, because this segment is the longest one I've ever done on the show. Last chance. Here we go. The film opens in modern day, immediately using Diana to push us into a flashback explaining the birth of the Amazons. Also, this elongated zoom from Meta Earth level all the way to a shot that ends perfectly above the Louvre Pyramid is a super dope way to open your film. So Bruce Wayne sends Diana a photograph in the present day she has been searching for basically her entire adult demigod life, as it represents the moment she came alive as a being with purpose. And he uses his unlimited, unearned wealth to track it down for her, which triggers a flashback of this entire story and is why we open in Amazon on a girl molded out of clay by her mother and breathed to life by Zeus after her mother begged him to, on an island filled with demigod women that is perpetually training for supposed imminent war they never question the validity of. Which also is against Ares, the god of war, but not that one. Also, when Diana's mother was surprised that her totally alone clay child was inspired by the militaristic display she is inundated with 24/7 and was like, oh no, my daughter! We live in a society ruled by literally one purpose. How ever has that purpose affected her? Oh, I might faint. Fast forward to Diana actually training because she's secretly a weapon called the God Killer, spoilers, a super subtle sounding superhero name that is in no way as cool as Wonder Woman. Can she just go by that for a little bit? The God Killer one, for me. Two things happen in rapid succession. Diana realizes that she is a weapon, which brings up a whole host of new questions about agency in a system that empowers people with a boatload of responsibility without their consent to do so. But that's more of a superhero problem at large from top to bottom, very much not specifically a Wonder Woman problem, so we're going to table that one for a second. Anyway, this is where Steve Trevor and a whole host of German soldiers come through this wormhole energy shield thing, and a big fight scene ensues that takes a lot of lives between the bows and the guns, and is our first real visual clue that Diana isn't necessarily on board with any side of this conflict. Diana is her own person, something this movie is very much about, as well as its intended message. Empower each other, speak truth to power, which sometimes needs to be spoken on the knuckles of perfect fist, a point tough to argue in a war film as her methods are downright civilized by comparison. She fights for something, not against something. Let me tell you a story. When I was finding out what I wanted to say with this, my friend Lily, yes, the same Lily friend from the Iron Giant episode, clues me in on this article. Here is everything about the meta story of the movie and the point of this movie illustrated in a single story. And in a fun side note, in tracking the story down, as it appeared on many websites, it was originally run as a piece/interview with Patty Jenkins from Fandango, of all sites, and it's about the no man's land scene. You might be saying to yourself, hang on, Michael, isn't that the best scene in the movie? Yes, and it's entirely incidental to the central plot, and I will remind you that the central plot is irrelevant to this film. Killing Ares, the god of war, has no effect on war still occurring. The ultimate goal of this film has no purpose. Humans are just bad. The movie says all you can really do at the end of the day is empower each other, speak truth to power, and stand up to the injustices that you see in the world. So when studio executives gave confused notes, most likely pointing out that this served no narrative purpose as it was in no way related to her core mission, identify and kill Ares, Patty fought for it. She said, and I am quoting, "This is a scene about her becoming Wonder Woman." She isn't fighting anyone. Diana becomes Wonder Woman in a scene where she doesn't directly fight anyone. It was apparently a little confusing to shoot because everyone kept asking, yes, but who is she fighting? She becomes Wonder Woman when she isn't hitting people. Being a superhero doesn't mean hitting people all the time. Batman! It's narrative expendable, but it's thematically irreplaceable. This scene in this movie. Moving on. Name an authority figure in this movie who isn't wrong. From archaic practices upheld with no thought into doing research to ensure that Themyscira could actually fend off an attack from the outside world. And yes, I know that's getting into the weeds, but even her mom isn't honest with her about what her very purpose in life is. And when she's helping the army out, they don't want to listen to her, and also they super duper want to control her. She puts up with precisely none of these gender politics, causing issues that Diana doesn't even care to understand. And Steve somehow manages to calm down her understandable displeasure with the world by lassoing literally himself. And that's a repeated theme throughout the movie, is that her friends are the ones who don't really try to control her. They also do a little bit though. It doesn't work then either. And if I may, it is proven instantly that Diana as a person has a measurable increase on the quality of life for literally the entire world. And that's just by existing in it. Your move, Superman! Diana is lied to, like, a lot, albeit because she has a higher given purpose, but it is not a purpose anyone is honest with her about. So we get our first taste of the World War I backstory through flashback within flashback, and that goes on like 3 or 4 times. I don't know, I lost count. Which is all revealed to us in one of my favorite scenes where Steve gets Lasso of Truth did again and has to reveal literally everything, including...
What war?
The war. The war to end all wars.
Which is to break into Act 2. We are now getting a war film at the same time as a superhero film, as a superhero origin film. You know, after Diana steals all the fun wonder weapons, which were hers to begin with. And even in banishment, Diana's mom does not tell her the truth still.
Should you have told her? The more she knows, the sooner he'll find her.
Cool, that'll ensure everybody's destruction, though. Anyway, Diana and Steve are now best friends because when you think about it, Diana's never really had a friend before, and they're the two people most out of their elements in this entire situation. Their bond makes sense in a 6th grade kind of weird way, but warranted and earned. And also they're in love sometimes, but and this is where Gal Gadot, yes, you say the T, begins to absolutely shine. Like when confronted with German baddies and Steve Trevor is like, "Get behind me," but then she blocks a bullet and he's like,
or maybe not.
But the key to this scene is in how the conflict is resolved without any further confrontation. After making short work of everyone that's armed and providing an imminent threat, when the fight is over, Diana first apologizes to the man she just hurt and speaks compassion. Whereas Batman would have, that. Basically, this movie is a lot of people trying to tell Diana who she is and what she can do, and her not really taking too kindly to their suggestions. Also, defying authority for altruistic reasons. You know, a superhero, little bit power fantasy, little bit punk rock, little bit uplifting, warm look at why you do the right thing. Because we're all on the same team.
You would knowingly sacrifice all those lives as if they mean less than yours?
Diana, let's talk
as
about
if
this
they
outside.
mean nothing?
It's a lot of things. A billion, in fact. One way to describe it would be to say that this film deals with PTSD more than the majority of war films, which is a telling statement. And this film doesn't deal with it a great deal, but it does acknowledge it if even through the lens of a World War I mindset. And the PTSD side story ends with,
maybe you're better off without me, yeah?
No, Charlie. Who will sing for us?
This is why this movie is awesome. Details Diana paid attention to in a world entirely confusing and new to her that no one else noticed, because Diana is kind, compassionate, and modeled not from clay, but from human empathy. Wonder Woman sets an example not just to young girls and women, though it was certainly judged unfairly under that exact metric. She sets an example for all of the other superheroes. No, I'm sure Batman is a good role model for young boys. He just painfully disfigures people to get them murdered in prison. How is that Batman? And that trait is not solely Batman's, which is when Diana accomplishes her mission and the movie gets a little dark. She's blindly still trusting the words of her people when so many of them lied to her. I mean, she outright murders the man she thinks is Ares and has no concept of why there is still war in the world. She was sold a simplified vision of it. And we get the chewy nougaty center of this film, my favorite Chris Pine performance ever. Yes, even better than Smoking Aces, because it is just so honest.
It's not about deserve. It's not. Maybe we don't. But it's not about that. It's about what you believe. You don't think I get it after what I've seen out there? You don't think I wish I could tell you that it was one bad guy to blame? It's not.
Believe in doing good things just to do them. Steve dies for this idea. And this sacrifice connects Diana to exactly what he was trying to say. Humans are bad. A lot of them, in fact. So when I say Wonder Woman is a movie about a billion things, I mean it. Those billion things all work, and they work together. And it leans in every direction it has to make it work. It gets campy, it gets silly, it gets heavy. It does what it needs to. Because it's a billion great things. Here's why I think what Patty Jenkins and company managed to accomplish here is monumental. It took an icon with a rich and wildly diverse back catalog of quality and made a modern thing with a modern message. And it was one of peace and hope and acceptance and, yes, love, the kind of love you have for humanity when you were sworn to protect it. And as you learn, usually from itself. Because some people are bad. But even the unseen demonic god force admits he wasn't responsible for any of this. Some people are just bad, which is an ultimately myopic, naive point that I wish all superhero movies would make. People are ultimately good, and in the face of a lot of current evidence to the contrary, the majority of people are ultimately good, something Diana takes on faith. Because one person she knew, her best friend in fact, was a really good person. I like it when my superhero movies actually attempt the good role model thing, and I don't mean that all superhero films have to be role models, just sharing my personal belief that given their young skewing audience, it doesn't suck when someone stands up for the good in humanity, forgiving our weaknesses and tries to show us a better world. And I know it's artfully rewarding to deconstruct the ideas of superheroes at what seems like our apex of them, but we also live in a day and age where things are so polarized you actually don't necessarily want your flagrant fictional escapism to remind you of the dour, hopeless visage we struggle to hang up over the crumbling old one. Frankly, it isn't the time for Watchmen. And wouldn't you know it, we trusted someone to make a deconstructive superhero film, and I don't want to be this negative, but he hasn't shown a general aptitude for constructing them, let alone deconstructing them. You want to talk about hitting from the rough? Patty followed Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. That's like making a Padme spinoff after episode 2. They should be carrying Patty Jenkins off the field like Rudy after this. So here's a wild idea. Give Justice League 2 to Patty Jenkins. Even if it's a soft reboot to point yourselves in the right direction again, like making Wonder Woman the leader of the entire team this time because she's the only one that actually acts like a, human. Like, what if WB's DC movies were the ones that actually had something to say about superhero films? Here's a bad thought. When Captain Marvel comes out, it will be the 21st film that Marvel Studios has released. It took them 21 movies to get to the point where they actually felt comfortable having a woman anchor a solo film. That's a lot. 21. DC, it took you 4. 3 if you don't count Suicide Squad, and I will grant you that mulligan. You have and own an amazing blueprint, a blueprint that a particular Wonder Woman fought against you to make something that will ultimately define this genre in the moment we are currently in. Your move. Yeah, so this is the last episode of the year. I know last year I did a big end of 2016 spectacular. Not really going to be happening this year. Also, quick thank you to Lily, Tommy, Serenity, and Logan for helping me out on this episode. We're going to go into the patrons, but I'm going to keep talking for a second. This year got scary and was sad and was really hard. And I didn't enjoy it a lot, but I hope you enjoyed some of the more wild swings in tone I took on this show, trying to find, something. By the way, I'm playing crowd noise because I thought it would be a fun thing to do where I'm just like, yo, what's up, William Dixon? Nice French onion dip, like we're all at a party together. Oh, what's up, the Jen? Nice dance moves. Love it. Milli Vanilli? Great shirt. Nathan Goldberg? I didn't know you still ate cinnamon buns. Is that a thing people do at parties or no? Yeah, anyway, it was a really scary, terrible, horrible, awful year, and I don't have any words of encouragement like last year except to say be like Adam, Billy, Charles, Dan, Fred, take that 2 first names, Smith. That's such a good example for all of us. I just don't know if you're going to fit that in a WWJD kind of bracelet. Yeah, I wish I had more inspirational things to say. Follow me on Twitter. Sometimes I'm funny at Mikey Face. That's the thing. Turning this into a business was pretty difficult, and still kind of getting through the growing pains. So definitely check out the Patreon down there in the link if you like what you see. Think about contributing a few bucks. 2018 is going to be a big year for me and Thaddeus and Filmjoy. We have a lot of big plans. It's just going to take the work to get there, and I hope you're ready. Especially you, Terrible Plan. Rocking that cool members only check. I haven't been to a party. I don't even know. Thank you for all the names listed. You guys have been huge. You've helped me out a lot. I've paid off some hospital bills, done some other stuff. It's a thing. Kind of crazy to think back to even the difference between December when I made the Grand Budapest episode last year and then March when I made the I'm Still Here video. That was a pretty wild swing. Yeah, I don't want to dwell on it too much. I just want to thank you again for all the support. I hope it keeps happening because it's pretty cool and I love making the show. I love you all. I'll be back early next year with the Fave 5 of 2017. So there's no voting this time. See y'all on the other side.